Can you believe it? It is finally here. After a long time waiting for the start of the Duke football season, we have arrived, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Tonight, Mike Elko and the Duke Blue Devils will take the field inside Wallace Wade Stadium, and we're going to talk about that all throughout today's edition of Locked On Blue Devils. Let's go ahead and get started. Here we go.
Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with JJ Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. It's so great to have you here with us on Friday, September 2nd, 2022. Duke football is back in our lives, and we're going to discuss that on today's show. Our show today is brought to you by our friends at Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. Coming up on today's show, I'm so thrilled to bring in my buddy Conor O'Neill from Deacons Illustrated and Devils Illustrated, a part of the Rivals family. We're going to discuss Duke football coming up on today's show. If you haven't done so already, make sure you follow our program on Twitter at LO_Blue Devils. Follow me on Twitter at _JJ_Jackson_. And please make sure that you follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever you get your podcasts. Watch the show daily with us as well on YouTube. And thanks for making Locked On Blue Devils your first listen and first watch each and every day. Without further ado, let me go ahead and bring on Conor O'Neill to the program. Again, the publisher for Devils Illustrated and Deacons Illustrated. Conor, the time is greatly appreciated. It's football season. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I always get sick around this time. It's always just like a sinus headache. I don't know if I work myself into this ball of stress and it kind of comes out this way, but other than being a little deeper voiced and a little coffee and sneezy, I'm good.
It's everybody's got to battle through the conditions, through the elements, and that sort of thing. We finally gotten to that moment in time, and here we are. I mean, it's been so much off-season chatter throughout the sport. Conference realignment has been crazy. We're still a year into the name, image, and likeness era of college athletics. It's got to be so relaxing to be able to know that tonight Duke will be playing a football game that last week we saw week 0. We saw some Thursday night games last night as well that we could just, watch the game and break down what happens.
Yeah, when you go through the offseason that we've been, and this is not like the first one, it feels like the second or third straight offseason where it's just like, man, just get me to Labor Day weekend so I can have a big 120-yard rushing performance to talk about or a big quarterback debut with Riley Leonard stepping in. Like, get me to that kind of stuff instead of, oh my gosh, is Duke going to be out of a conference in 2028 when the grant of rights falls apart? Or, is Duke going to fall behind because all their NIL money is going to go to basketball players? And just, man, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to tonight and being able to see, like, how do these new pieces fit in on the field and kind of put what we saw in fall camp into a purview against another team. That's always the cliche at this time. Like, everybody is ready to play another team. I'm ready to see what Duke looks like against another team.
And that other team tonight, of course, is the Temple Owls, and we'll get more into that in just a little bit. Again, kickoff tonight at 7:30 Eastern on the ACC network. To watch the product, David Shoemate will have the call for the Blue Devil Network. So talking about, Conor, your work with Devils Illustrated, a part of the Rivals Network and that sort of thing, for any listeners or viewers that might not be aware of your work, one, shame on them, but two, kind of catch them up to speed.
Yeah, so I took over Devils Illustrated about a year ago. Brian McLaughlin did some great work with the site for a long time, and it was not the smoothest of transitions, to be quite honest, but I feel like I was able to kind of step into a groove sometime in basketball season. Honestly, the last football season was a blur. Covering, there were a lot of points last year where I felt like the two teams I covered were the best team in the ACC with Wake Forest and the worst team in the ACC with Duke going winless in the conference and basically playing the last 6 games as non-competitive games. So I really kind of dedicated myself with the new coach. That allowed me to kind of press a reset button with football coverage. I will be realistic here. Like, Duke football is not going to outdraw Duke basketball in terms of click numbers and interest, but Duke football is still less than 10 years removed from playing for an ACC championship. Mike Elko came into the ACC at Wake Forest for 3 years when Duke was kind of at the height, coming off that ACC championship appearance. He's talked to us a lot about understanding, he's stepping into a place that needed to press the reset button and is in a down place, but he also knows how good Duke can be and how sustainable success can be based on the kind of mid to 2010s. So I look at it as obviously basketball is still going to rule the day, but there is a good avenue to fit into for Duke football coverage, and that's where I want to be. That's kind of, I was out at a little more than half of their fall camp practices. I live in Kernersville, which is, it puts me about 20 minutes away from Wake Forest and about an hour 5, hour 10 from Duke. I'd like to move next spring, next summer, to be a little shaded closer to Duke, and that might put me back. I've got some roots in Burlington. I went to Elon and worked in Burlington for about 5.5 years. That might put me back in that area, but that's all down the road. But yeah, I'm looking forward to covering Elko and kind of how they build this program. And I think it's headed in the right direction. It's hard to tell for sure until they get out there and play some games, but everything that I've seen so far tells me they're doing the right things to build it.
And now we get the answers tonight. That's the amazing part about all of this. As we're saying, you can start to see things tonight. It has been an off season where you're speculating who the quarterback is going to be between the likes of Riley Leonard and Jordan Moore. We now know that answer. We get to see Riley Leonard under center a little bit later tonight, so on and so forth. All your work at devilsillustrated.com. You also mentioned the basketball perspective. It's someone within the state, within the roots of North Carolina, and knowing the powers of Duke basketball. What was that transition like? How exciting was that to be a part of the Duke basketball coverage?
Man, I told my dad, Rivals wants me to cover Wake Forest, and they also want me to take over their Duke site. And he's like, wow, so you're going to be signing up for covering the last season of Coach K. And it was funny. It hadn't even dawned on me that I was signing up for that. Like, it was such a whirlwind that I hadn't really taken the time to realize what I had signed myself up for in that regard. That was crazy. I did not grow up in the state. I actually grew up a Maryland fan. So
okay, wow.
I had some, I'm not ashamed to admit, I had some deep-seated hatred for Duke, Carolina, Wake, and State, all pretty equal there when I was growing up. But I was able to extinguish any fanhood by the time I got into the professional ranks. Maryland leaving the ACC really helped kill whatever vapors were left of fanhood. So I'm able to look at Duke with an objective lens. I'm able to, I was writing stuff about how it's crazy to think about now. Like last January, going into the game in Chapel Hill, I was writing about how great of a transition Duke had compared to the transition UNC had, and how I wasn't sure if Hubert was going to work, and right. Carolina might be looking for another coach in a couple years. And then obviously the last month of the regular season and the month of the NCAA tournament really changed that view. I'm glad that freezing cold takes never picked up on what I was writing and what I was saying at that point. But yeah, I'm looking forward to. I guess it's never going to be a normal season at Duke. I guess we saw that earlier this week with the Dariq Whitehead stuff coming out.
Sure.
That was out of right field. But I'm looking forward to not having a season of, oh man, these players are playing the last season for the greatest coach in the history of the sport. Is there pressure to beat Boston College on a Wednesday night? And that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
no, you're right. I mean, what an exciting time we've got in the life of Duke athletics to have a first-year football coach and a first-year men's basketball coach all on campus at the same time moving forward and that sort of thing. Conor O'Neill, who are with us again, Deacons Illustrated and Devils Illustrated, a part of the Rivals Network. And you can follow him on Twitter at Conor O'Neill _DI. All right, let's take our first time out on the program and we'll talk a little more Duke football here in just a moment. Are you one of those people who thinks it's still okay to drive stoned? What's the worst that can happen? You end up driving below the speed limit. It's no big deal, right? Well, you're wrong. The truth is your reaction times slow way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Talk about a buzzkill. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Brought to you by the Highway Traffic Administration. All right, we're moving forward here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. I'm JJ Jackson alongside Conor O'Neill. Conor, let's talk about this football team. And we kind of mentioned the offseason that was. Not only do you have a new football coach coming in, but for any football team to be successful, you better be good under center. You better have a quarterback that you feel confident in. And for Duke, they're looking at a pair of sophomores with rather limited playing experience so far in their careers. It's not zero for either one of them. We did see them at parts throughout the year, but ultimately Duke lands on Riley Leonard being the guy. I kind of thought this would be where they ended up. Why ultimately do you think Riley Leonard is the answer at quarterback to start the year?
Riley grabbed the reins, I would say, early in fall camp. I thought spring, it was pretty hard to see a difference between Riley and Jordan, but really, when we got into past the first week of fall camp, it looked like he would be the better fit. Kevin John's offense, they're going to require a lot of quick, short to intermediate passes. They need accuracy. Like you can't be missing like a 2nd and 8 bubble screen and turn that into 3rd and 8. No football team likes to play behind the chains. But when you have a team that has as many new pieces, as many kind of we're figuring out what we have situations with personnel, you cannot afford to play behind the chains. It's just that simple. So, and Riley gives them probably a little bit more accuracy on the deep shots that they want to take. They want to get one-on-one matchups on the outside and be able to throw. Eli Pankel is probably the best target there. He's 6'3". Daryl Harding Jr. is 6'4", but they're trying to squeeze some potential out of him that, sometimes in fall camp it looked like it was there, and then other times it didn't. But yeah, they need a quarterback that can be a little precise, and that's Riley more than it is Jordan.
And so with that being said, you mentioned kind of the deep guys for Duke football. You've also got Jalen Calhoun, who's very much so a known commodity from Duke football over the last few seasons, a guy that we've seen play much closer to the line of scrimmage and the shorter routes that he runs, get the football in his hands and let him do the rest of the work. Talking about Jalen Calhoun. But then also we're seeing Jordan Moore get some opportunities at other spots on the field, which is just rather unprecedented in a quarterback battle. And when that takes place, you feel like, okay, it is leaning in Riley Leonard's direction, because any coaching staff out there would want to make sure that a quarterback got as many reps as possible at the quarterback position. And so if Jordan Moore is out taking wide receiver reps, it kind of lets you know, hey, maybe he's not going to be your answer at quarterback. Talk to me a little bit about that decision.
Yeah, it was the amount of times I used the phrase "the writing is on the wall" in the week or two leading up to Riley Leonard announced as the starter. Probably too much.
Right.
Jordan Moore is just such a dynamic player. He might be Duke's best open field runner. He might be their most elusive player. I guess I don't know if my boy standing up here is a vote of confidence in that or an objection. But he's really electric and dynamic, and you can't have a talent like that standing on the sidelines, only entering the game if the starting quarterback gets hurt. You want to be able to use that, and they're going to need it. This team lacks known commodities as playmakers. That's kind of the blunt and honest truth of it. So if they can get the ball in his hands, whether it is quarterback packages, goal line packages as a quarterback, Mike Elko mentioned earlier this week you could see him at running back. Last year he was in that David Cutcliffe role of like he's the running quarterback. When he comes in, 90% of the time he's going to be keeping it on a QB draw or something like that. It's not going to be that. Like they're going to split him in the slot. You could see him out wide. They're going to do whatever it takes to get the ball in his hands. They don't do that unless they have somewhat confidence in Henry Beelan, the freshman quarterback who came in the summer, and he physically looks the part of an ACC quarterback. He needs some refinement. Like he is very much a raw talent throwing the ball right now, but his progression, how quickly he picked things up in fall camp, gave them a little more of a license to put Jordan Moore in different spots, to kind of move him around, to figure out creative ways to get the ball in his hands. And that'll be pretty exciting. I have to call one foul though. It's not unprecedented even for me coverage wise.
Okay. Tell me.
Wake Forest did this with Kendall Hinton, a Durham native. He played quarterback for 4 years. 3 years, 4 years, something like that. He was going to be suspended for the first 3 games of 2018. So Wake moved the quarterback battle that was for the backup to their starter, and that was between Sam Hartman and Jamie Newman. And after like 2 or 3 days of fall camp, they put Kendall Hinton out in the slot receiver role. And he didn't play much slot in that season. Like it wasn't a Jordan Moore situation where you knew he was going to be a heavy part of the game plan. It was more he came along the next year. In 2019, Kendall Hinton, I think, tied for Wake's lead in catches or receiving yards. Like he's a slot receiver on a practice squad in the NFL right now. So
not totally unprecedented. Yeah, you're right. That's fair to bring up on my part. And look, I committed a foul on the program.
Unprecedented for Duke.
Unprecedented for Duke. Well, and then when you say that, I'm also reminded of the fact where it's like, all right, JJ, let's get caught up to speed of where we were a year ago. Because you mentioned Henry Beelan IV, and that's great that you do because he's a true freshman. If you look at Duke's football team a season ago, there was another freshman of many freshman quarterbacks, and Luka Diamond, who going into spring ball transitioned full-time over to the wide receiver room. So I don't know. Just for me, it felt unprecedented when you were actually actively in the competition. Kickoff is weeks away from taking place at this point. And you know what? We're going to let him get reps at other spots. But I do like your point that you made about Henry Beelan, Connor, because I would imagine the thinking process of this coaching staff is we can't let him have too many snaps at other spots on the field because the injury risk is a little bit greater when you're out there. And if something were to happen to Riley Leonard, we would want Jordan Moore to be our backup quarterback. If you put Jordan Moore out at other sides on the field and something happens to Riley Leonard, is Henry Beelan ready to take the reins over? Is that fair to say, knowing the injury risks that could be in play, or is there something else in play here?
Yeah, I was talking about this the other day with somebody out. We were on the outskirts of a practice going on. It's a fluid situation, and I don't know this for a fact, but I feel like it kind of is one of these situations you see where if Riley Leonard goes down, with a twisted ankle in the second quarter and can't come back, I think you see Jordan Moore take over that game. But say Riley Leonard goes down second quarter again, just for consistency, and he's able to play through whatever injury he has, a bruised shoulder or something like that, but then it swells up and he can't go the next week. I think there's a chance you could see them say, okay, we've got a full week to prepare. Let's put Henry Beelan in that role. Let's, take this week to really rep Henry Beelan, get him familiar with the first team offense, and let's throw him out there. That's more hunch on my part than it is knowing that's what Mike Elko is going to do. You know, I can't read his mind. I've covered him for 8 months now. We're not on that level, but that's just kind of my feeling on what the scenario could play out as.
Let's see, and we'll start to get some answers tonight. Football back in action at Wallace Wade Stadium. Duke taking on Temple, and Riley Leonard will be at quarterback. Let's wrap up today's show after this final timeout here on Locked On Blue Devils. Once again, want to let you know about BetOnline, a proud sponsor of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. BetOnline is the #1 source for your pro and college football betting needs and sports information this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week games. Tonight, the Duke Blue Devils favored by a touchdown over Temple, according to BetOnline. It's also your continued sport source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorites, including Major League Baseball, final month of the regular season for the MLB. Go place your bets with BetOnline. Also, lines available for MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, as we begin to wind down today's edition of Locked On Blue Devils, I'm JJ Jackson alongside Conor O'Neill. There's a level of excitement when you talk about Duke football, knowing that there's a new head coach in place. You've got a Friday night game. It's not high school football under Friday night lights, but you've got an ACC team taking the field in the first game of the Mike Elko era. Aside from the obvious, aside from the outcome on the field, is this Duke football program looking for an energy, an atmosphere? Like what kind of expectations, if you were to ask this coaching staff and the powers that be, do they have for the environment that folks will walk into later tonight?
You know, I think there's some realistic takes that they're not going to have a sold out venue. Sure. There's, you know, you have to win some of the fan base back that's tuned out over the last few years. COVID has had something to do with that. It's not all the losing records, all that. It's also the global pandemic that we've been going through. I do think they want to see an atmosphere that leads itself to excitement. That sure. They want to put a product on the field that people can be proud of. They want to. One of the main things that Coach Elko has mentioned is wanting to get the community of Durham involved, not just the student section, the parents, that kind of, like, they want to make it a hometown thing. That's tough. You know, I always go back to Mark Gottfried's old saying was, you know, it's a tough neighborhood. You're dealing with, you know, in the city of Durham, you might have a 33 split with Carolina and State fans. So we'll see how that manifests over the years, really. I don't think anybody holds any notions that it's going to come together all in one season. That's a long-term project type goal. And, you know, they're doing the right thing. Like we saw earlier, they've put out some art of the end zones are painted blue now, with Duke in bold, in white letters, and the slogans for the program, the grind and bleed blue, are written into the, you know, the out of bounds
right
paint.
Right.
That's cool. Like that, and that's stuff that it's a simple field maintenance, field management type thing to put in, but it gives a little more sense of pride in the program, a little more connection from, you know, if you're watching on TV or you're at the game, you can see that stuff and kind of get latched onto the program. So that's what they're going for with those.
And Elko branding at place and all of that as well. So, all right, we've talked a good bit about the offense as we wind down here. Again, Conor O'Neill here with us. Tell me about the defensive side of the football. Like, what is one thing about this defense that intrigues you to start the year?
I really want to see what their defensive line looks like. I think that unit might have been the most consistently impressive unit throughout fall camp, just because you look at the Pro Football Focus numbers, you look at just the overall stats. I think RJ Oben was the leader in sacks last year with 5. Dwayne Carter had like 4.5 and led the team in QB pressures. This day and age of college football, you can't win. You can't play good defense, at least, if you don't have a good offensive or defensive line. If teams are going to throw the ball 60 to 65% of the time and you can't put any pressure on quarterbacks, there are a lot of good quarterbacks in the country. And even the mediocre ones can look good if you give them 5 to 6 seconds to pick your defense apart.
It
doesn't matter how good your DBs are if receivers get that much time to run routes and the quarterback is unencumbered and not pressured. So I'm really interested to see Dwayne Carter look like he took a step forward. It's not very common for your interior defensive lineman to lead you in pressures. If he can do that again, I mean, if he's going to be the Duke football and college football, ACC football version of Aaron Donald, there's nothing wrong with that. Vincent Anthony Jr. is the freshman that everybody seems to want to talk about. He's 6'6", 240. He's the hometown guy. Like you're looking for a way to draw in hometown guys. Start the hometown freshman at the end. He does not look like a 18 or 19-year-old. He looks mature. He looks like he'll be able to handle the rigors of playing a full ACC schedule. He's a speed guy off the edge. You need that. And it's something that I'm not sure Duke had in the last year or two. So that's really the one area. I want to see if they can put pressure on, I think Dwan Mathis is Temple's starting quarterback.
Right.
He's a transfer from Georgia. I want to see if they can pressure him and kind of force him into some bad throws.
That's right. A Georgia transfer quarterback for the Temple Owls tonight as they take on Duke at Wallace Wade Stadium. Kickoff set for 7:30 Eastern on the ACC network. Conor, the time has been so greatly appreciated. Really want to thank you for coming on the program today. How can we support you and what you do?
Yeah, so if you see my Twitter, that's _DI. I had somebody tell me they thought it was D1 a couple weeks ago, and that's not true. DI is kind of the double meaning for Deacons Illustrated and Devils Illustrated.
And the stars aligned on that for you, by the way, that you didn't have to make a big change there, I would imagine.
They did. That was kind of easy. The website is duke.rivals.com. If any Wake fans happen to tune in, it's wakeforest.rivals.com. But if you go to duke.rivals.com, sign up for a premium membership and use the promo code Duke, all caps, 30, you get 30 days free. So that's still running, and I would love to get some people on board there.
That's awesome. Well, Conor, I really do appreciate the time. We'll have to do this again sometime soon as the season moves forward and as we get closer to basketball season. Thanks for joining us on Locked On Blue Devils.
Great. Thanks, JJ.
That's Conor O'Neill from Devils Illustrated and Deacons Illustrated joining us here on the program. And what a fun show that was. Been following his work for quite some time and really grateful that he took some time to join us here on the program. Tonight is Duke football. We all can't wait to see what takes place as the Mike Elko era officially gets started. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at @LO_Blue Devils. Follow and subscribe to this podcast for free. And also make sure that you check us out on YouTube. That'll do it for our show. I'll talk to you on Monday. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.